Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the Third Eagle of the Apocalypse and the co-prophet of these end times. This will be part 7 in my series on that Jewish teenager, Natan, and the amazing vision he received on the 4th blood moon. That was, I believe, this past September. And I want to primarily talk about how sexual sins in these end times will prevent you from gaining access to the Millennium, the 1,000 years of peace, when Jesus will reign in men's hearts, and there will be no more sexual sins of any kind. And it's interesting to me that on YouTube and throughout the internet, there are hundreds and hundreds of videos posted about the significance of the 4 blood moons, especially for the nation of Israel. And yet, hardly any of those people, who I consider false prophets now, do not mention that the 4 blood moon prophecy was fulfilled with Natan's vision. And I suspect the reason is because Natan said, in order to be sealed, that would be for the Jews, they must avoid sexual sins, including the wasting of seed. And that can only refer to contraception and masturbation. Is that why the false prophets are not following up on their 4 blood moon prophecy? I mean, it is not popular. It is not money-making to say that you must avoid contraception. But that is what Natan is saying. And we should not be surprised that sexual sins are all around us in these end times. Satan is pulling out all stops to keep us from being raptured for the Protestants, protected for the Catholics, and sealed for the Jews. He does not want any of us to make it into the 1,000 years of peace. And Jesus told us that it would be as in the days of Noah. Those were sexual sins at that time. He told us it would be as in the days of Lot. And of course, those were the sins of homosexuality. And let's see how Natan puts it. He says, yes, there is also someone who doesn't guard his eyes and gazes upon immodest women. So also that. And also someone who wastes his seed also. Now that is a reference to Genesis 38, where God killed Onan for wasting his seed. As I say, that refers to masturbation and contraception. And the false prophets are not going to warn you about those sins. But Natan is warning you. And that proves to me that Natan is indeed giving true prophecy. And Natan continues. Some woman in the audience asks him about modesty for women. And anyone who has been to a movie lately, you know what Hollywood values are. They promote abortion, contraception, sterilization. They promote pornography, homosexuality, transgenderism, fornication, even in Disney movies. You can't escape it in these end times. And Natan continues. Also forbidden sexual relations, according to what I saw. That is something very big. And also the spilling of blood. Well, do you remember Jesus' parable of the 5 wise and 5 foolish virgins? Notice that term, by the way, virgins. They had to keep oil in their lamps and their wicks trimmed. And I have often said on this program, that is sexual symbolism. Remember, if you want to qualify for the marriage feast of the Lamb, you must be sexually pure. And that is becoming increasingly difficult in these end times. Now, I'm not saying that sexual sins are the only sins that will prevent you from being raptured or protected or sealed. Natan also mentions gossip, slander. But don't forget, in the millennium, there will be no overt sins. The parable of the talents tells you that in the end times, during the millennium, the 1,000 years of peace, there will only be covert sins, that is, sins of omission. Now here's what Natan says. Incidentally, evil slander and gossip is also a very, very serious commandment, like it's also lashon hara. I believe that means evil slander and gossip. Also for women, modesty, also that. If you intend to be raptured or protected or sealed, you must be perfect as Jesus advised. Now a lot of people say, well, that's impossible. No, it isn't. All those who survive into the millennium will not be doing any overt sinning. They will not be into pornography or abortion or contraception. All those sins will be gone, including the sins of murder or slander or lying or gossip. Only sins of omission will occur during the millennium. Remember, Jesus said that the person with the talent, the one who hid it, he was condemned. We think that's a terrible thing to condemn someone simply because he hid his talent. Not during the millennium. During the millennium, that will be considered a very serious sin. Now, when Jesus says you must be perfect, that's why I have images of Mary in my living room. Those images counter images of pornography, which you cannot avoid. If you are on the internet like I am all the time, pornographic images are ubiquitous. They are all over. That's why I have images of Mary in my house. Mary is a perfect human being. In fact, I recommend, this is from my personal experience, pray 3 Hail Marys every morning for purity, specifically. Now, Mary cannot prevent you from sinning, but she does, like a very kind mother, remind you when you are being tempted. And I, unfortunately, am speaking from personal experience. I don't mind telling you. I am not a false prophet who is here to make money or to be popular. I am here to try to help you into the 1,000 years of peace. I certainly hope that I will be either raptured or protected or sealed. Those are the 3 groups who will survive the millennium. Do you want to join us or not? If you do, you must avoid all sexual sins, including, as Natan says, the wasting of seed. Now, in conclusion, I want to point out to you that God himself gave us holy images. Holy images are not idols. Don't let Satan fool you. God himself gave us this image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. God himself gave us the image that I have on my button here, and that is the Shroud of Turin. Those are holy images. They remind us that we can be perfect, and we must be perfect. And that's my message for today. Thank you for watching. And if you are interested in the rest of my prophecies here on YouTube, visit my thirdeaglemedia.com website.